Hey pioneers, and welcome back. Yeah, I know I probably need to have a haircut and shave, but the factory must grow, so let's make it grow. On our last video we automated a huge chunk of aluminum ingots, so now we are free to spend them, to do whatever we want. So I made a factory design. I got this madness. So let me explain you my process. I started by heatsinks, an item I haven't made, and said, well, it's cool to automate it. But then I figured, can we do something with heatsinks? And I realized that we can. We can do cooling systems. So I said, well, let's do these too. But then I repeated the question, can we do something with cooling systems? Apparently you can do turbo motors. And then I followed that path. And I realized that with turbo motors, you can also do whatever the crap this is. Thermal propulsion rocket. But this requires fused modular frames that I also don't have. So you need to automate those. So yeah, it was I entered a rabbit hole and this was the result. The outputs would be heatsinks, cooling systems, turbo motors, our first space elevator part, fused modular frames, and I also set up an objective of automating every single automatable, syncable item in the game, but I didn't have this objective from the start. I'm starting to catch up. So for example, all of the times I made smart plating, I never sent it to a dimensional depot overflow protected, so I will be also sending this as an output. The end result, a lot of stuff. But anyway, the numbers are really low. This factory is not meant to feed any other factory. This is only stuff that I want to have, to build, to automate everything. And we will also be getting one space elevator part from the process. So let's start. So I'd like to make something a little bit original, because I don't want everything to look the same. We need to improvise. So I said, let's add verticality, like that Empire State Building. That's my starter factory, if you are new to the channel. So ideally, I would like to make, of course, not of that size. That factory is in the other end of the map. But not one, but several tall, thin buildings that look better than that one. I don't like that one that much. So, well, that's the main plan. Now, when I designed that beast, it took me a lot of time. I made it very optimally. I designed floor by floor what was going up, what was going down. I'm not doing any of that. If I'm not even getting a haircut, I won't spend that much time planning. So let's do something random. The idea for the first tower, I'm seeing that there's a lot of stuff that requires steel pipes. So I said, well, let's do the steel pipes, everything required for the steel pipes, in this case concrete, and let's place all of the machines that require the steel pipes, in this case rotors, stators, modular frames, encased industrial beams, and heavy modular frames. And that will be it. That will be one building. The other outputs needed for all of this stuff will come from a different tower, and will connect stuff somehow. Gods of Chaos will know. But at least I know the squares that need to be on this tower, so let's get started on that. Okay, we got our starting point. Now there's some stuff I wanted to talk about. Currently is 29th of March for me. Coffee Stain just released a video with a lot of the features that will come in 1.1, and many of those features are great for this project. Nevertheless, I can't wait until the patch releases. We know that it will come in experimental on April 1st, but April 1st, there's a big chance that's a joke and not entirely true. So, well, I decided to move forward. Still, I planned a little bit ahead. Apparently the personal lift is one tile wide, so I will be leaving this gap, and we will use that lift when it gets released. And in the meantime, I will have to jetpack or hoverpack between floors. Another feature I would love to use are the vertical splitters and mergers, but well, I won't wait for the patch. The factory must grow. So what do we have over here? This is the first floor that will be doing the concrete. I chose this one so that we can build water pressure. I still don't know where the water will be coming from. And you might notice that I left it a huge room. Why did I do this? We will be doing several buildings, one next to the other, and transmitting materials between them. So then the floors need to match. So I usually make 2 tiles for logistics floors and 4 tiles for regular floors, because you can fit a manufacturer over here. So I did this just to know the height of the second building. This would be another logistics floor, and this would be another floor. So the logistics floor that will be here needs to match the one from the second building. So yeah, this floor is higher than I would like, but well, stuff that happens. I want the buildings to match between each other. And then, well, there's not much to say about this. I load balanced it. There are still a lot of unknowns, so I'm just will be figuring out as I go. For the time being, this is a limestone input, and this would be our concrete output. Now, most of the concrete will be used in this building, but we have 22 that is for our heavy modular frames, and that will go to another building. So I'm assuming I will do it over here, and I already took note that where the concrete will be going, because I will forget in the future. And I'm also taking note prioritized. Why is that? Over here we have a smart splitter, and as we are producing around 400 or 300 concrete, I send the any to this path that only requires 22. This helps on a faster startup, because as we are sending so much more material that it's needed, well, the buffers will fill up quite fast. But well, I want to take note of whenever I have a prioritized belt, because ideally in this project I want to do as much sushi belts as I can, because they look awesome, and also, well, it reduces the amount of belts and lifts. But you can't make a sushi belt on a prioritized line, because this will get completely saturated out of concrete. So this will be an individual line. But I might have some occasions where I can merge belts. In order to do a sushi belt, all of the belts need to be load balanced. You can't be sending more than you need, because the belt will jam. So we have 22 concrete going over there, and the rest is going higher to our next floors. So let's plop some floors.
Several days later.
Done with the first tower. It was harder than expected, but well, one of the 2 or 3 towers is already done. Some things to mention: I still don't know how personal elevators are going to work, but I guess that if they don't have too many stops, that's better. So they won't be stopping at the logistics levels. I always added a stair to the main one, so it will only stop on the main floors. Another thing to note, I made a mistake. I was taking concrete out of this tower for our heavy modular frames, but they were meant to be done on this one. We are actually crafting every single material needed for them. So now I'm not taking concrete to our future tower, it only goes all higher. So our first stop are our steel pipes. We've got a total of 8 foundries. And they don't output anything to another tower, they don't need anything from another tower. They only need the steel ingots that will be coming from here, so that all of the inputs to this tower are kind of together. And the other material is the concrete. So that gives us steel pipes. After that we have our modular frames that need steel pipes, but also reinforced iron plates that we are not doing in this tower. That's why I set up over here. This would connect to the one that's next to it. Hopefully at the same level, but I don't know, we'll figure that out. And the modular frames are for our heavy modular frames, so they get taken over here and they go higher. Oh, and by the way, this thing you see over here, that would be a vertical splitter or vertical merger. This would have been way easier in 1.1, but well, you can solve it by doing this. So I've got a lot of those. Next stop we already talked about this one. We have our encased industrial beams. Again, steel pipes and concrete are materials that we have, but we have a new output, encased industrial beams. And what I'm doing over here is I'm merging it with our modular frames, because each of these levels are producing exactly the same amount we need for our heavy modular frames. So there's no priorities over here. The belt will never be saturated. We can do a sushi belt. Anyway, it has some disadvantages. We'll talk about that later. So we have this floor. Then we go over here to our heavy modular frames. That concrete, steel pipe, encased industrial beams, and modular frames is everything that we crafted so far. And what's the thing about the sushi belt? Here we can see this is the sushi belt that immediately goes to a smart splitter. And we are separating both materials. One goes higher, the other one goes lower. But this could bring issues in the future, because all of these stages won't be starting at the same time. Each stage itself is load balanced, but the materials will be arriving regarding the priorities I've set up. So what happens if the modular frames start way before than the encased industrial beams? We could get a scenario where all of this gets filled up, and if it gets filled up to there, the encased industrial beams will never be able to enter the machine. So I actually took note there. When I start this up, I need to make sure that if that's the case, just by clearing the buffers, it will work. So it's not a completely safe approach, this. You could have trouble at startup, but once encased industrial beams and modular frames are working as expected, this will never jam. But well, it's not ideal. Then we have our rotors. Unfortunately, I couldn't make them fit in one level, so there's 2 levels of rotors. And the output of both are being prepared to be sent over here, if I recall correctly. Yes, that's our... Oh no, that's an input of wire. Where's the output? Well, as here I had the input of the wire, I placed the output on the second level. And it's a lot of wire that we need, that will be coming from that side. So probably, yes, here is the output of the rotors. And finally, we have 2 more levels for our stators. Again, I couldn't fit them in one level, so we have one level over here and the other level over there. And every single stage is load balanced. And as with the rotors, the stators are being prepared over there. So hopefully on the other tower, the level that needs stators should be aligned. If not, I don't know, I'll figure it out. But that gives us one happy tower. Now let's start with the second one. Okay, let's plan a little bit. This is our factory diagram, and we already made concrete. We made the steel pipes and everything that was connected to the steel pipes, meaning this over here, this over here, this guy, this one, and this one, butchering the diagram. So what do we place on the other tower? We see that we need a lot of wire to connect to this tower, so this one definitely is in. We also needed some reinforced iron plates, so this one also goes in. We were producing rotors and stators, so we could place both of these. Reinforced iron plates needs iron plates, so let's add them to the tower. And I'm messing up. So far, this is too small, so we could add the copper ingots we need for the wire. Over here we need copper and aluminum, and over here we need copper and aluminum. So let's move these two over here. And maybe refineries, so that we have the 2 buildings with refineries next to one another. That kind of sounds fair, right? And so this would be our second tower, and all of these would be our third tower. And it's also good that the 2 modules that need nitrogen would be in the same tower. Yeah, this kind of feels good. I don't know. Maybe we could we have the copper sheets and the aluminum sheets. So maybe we could move this one. And that's it. We've got a plan. We are done with the first floor. And a lot of stuff happened, mainly because I didn't study the diagram. For starters, I need 9.57 refineries. That if you want to load balance them easy, it ends up being 12. But what's the deal? With the shape of the building I was doing, you can't fit more than 4 refineries. Trust me, I tried. I even tried placing one on top of the other with the chimneys facing the other side. No, there was no way of doing that. So if I wanted to fit 12 refineries on a building this shape, that would have meant 3 floors. And refinery floors are extremely high. It was like almost as tall as that building, only for refineries. So I decided to change a little bit the geometry, so it will be bigger on the base. The idea is later on make it thin as that other building. But well, it wasn't that bad. It only surprised me, like, why didn't you read the diagram? Why didn't you start with bigger buildings? But well, that's one thing. The other one is I've been doing this assuming from the beginning that I could carry all of the water into one pipe, but I never checked. So I went to Satisfactory Modeler to see how many water do we need. We need 599.9. That's not an exaggeration. That's the number I need. I don't know how I come up with these designs. So what's the deal? MK2 pipes can carry 600. I would be carrying 599.9. Now, can that be done? Of course. You can make pipes work at full capacity. The thing is that it's extremely hard. If you want to do that, the system must be perfect. Why is that? Let's assume we have an MK2 pipe that carries 400 water. So the 400 water is coming happy through the pipe. And then there's a little bit of clogging, a little bit of backflow that will reduce the flow to, let's say, 380. But as we are producing 400 and we are only using 380, that builds a little bit of pressure on the water producers. So after some time, it will compensate and all of that water will come through carrying 420 for the same amount of time it was carrying 380. So the system kind of compensates. But if I'm carrying 599.9, I only got 0.1 of buffer. So it is possible, but it will be hard. The system must not have a single error. So I'm in a world of pain. But well, I will try to do it. Worst case, I simply feed 2 pipes into this, but I think I can do it with only 1. So, well, stuff that happens. It was really funny. 599.9, never seen that. Another thing I found out building this factory needs iron. And why is that? I have a huge train station over there. I'm bringing a lot of materials from all of the world. Thousands of ingots of all shapes and colors. But I almost used all of the copper ones. I think I have like 100 available. So this factory produces its own copper ingots, and as I wanted to avoid fluids, I'm doing it, designed to do it with a foundry recipe that combines copper and iron. So this factory already needed iron. And it also needs iron ingots, and the idea was to bring the iron ingots from my train station. But it's not that much, it's like 64 iron ingots. So while building this, I noticed that I'm building it on top of a pure iron node. That's right over there. So I said, well, if we have all of this iron, let's make our own iron ingots. So iron ingots won't be an input. We'll do them here on this building, meaning an extra floor. But well, if we are doing 57 floors, we can do 58. So it's the first time I do something like that. It looks like this. Looks kind of neat. I will have to decorate, but we will be bringing our iron from the same building. And well, I done all of the connections for the first floor and started using signs I didn't on the other building, and I made a lot of errors because of that. So here we have the copper ingots that need to be crafted on a higher level and come to this floor. We have the iron ore that I'm getting from here and will go higher. And we also have the output of this segment that are the copper sheets that will also go higher. And then I checked out how many inputs do we have other than these and other from the ones that come from that tower. And we have two other inputs, copper ore and aluminum ingots. So I already prepared them over here. They have no signs because I don't know which one is which, but they are already pointing over here to this side where we have our belt bus. So the first floor is kind of done. I really tried to do it the same shape of that building, but I think it also doesn't mean that this is bad. I will probably maybe do one more floor of the same size and then reduce. Oh, this is from when I tried to do it smaller. And then try to get smaller, so it will give an interesting shape. So now let's do the second floor. Done with the second floor. As there was a lot of stuff I wanted to fit here, I'm still keeping the big shape, not doing the building smaller. So, well, what do we have here? I did clean a little bit the factory diagram. This is only what we are building on this tower. And right now we are doing the wire. So I separated the machines. On one side we have all of the wire that goes to the tower 1. And on the other side we have the wire that's going to be consumed on this tower. So these 2.85 constructors are 3 and these 25.3 are 32. Maybe I should have gone with a different recipe. These are a lot of constructors, but I made them fit. These 3 in the middle are, well, the module of 3, and we have the 32 constructors on the sides. I didn't have enough space to put one on top of the other, so I have to shift them a little bit so we can see that the light and the power connection doesn't clip. And well, it was a little bit tricky, but they all fit. We have a part of the load balancing here on the top, all of those splitters, and the other load balancing is done here on the bottom. So far, so good. So let's continue. Well, I'm assuming we must be around the 20-minute mark of the video. At least I hope so, because I'm trying to do shorter videos. So I think we will be wrapping this one right now. Please leave me feedback if you like this short format. I don't know, I'm experimenting, trying to get more people into the channel. Not an easy task. Load balancing huge towers is easier. So, well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please remember to leave a thumbs up or a comment, it helps a lot. And I'll be seeing you on the next one. Cheers!